All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to yet another awesome webinar in the South Africa community. We'll wait until a couple more people join. I think online etiquette means that I think half a year ago people used to join 5 minutes before webinars. Then they 3 months ago they all joined on the time, and these days I think the trend is the other way. But going to kick off in a minute because we also don't want to lose too much time. And what we often see these days is that people ask us after 10 minutes of joining, they ask us when the replay will be out because they've missed something. And there's good news about that as well, because the replay will be out in only 2 hours from now. So you can all watch it in your own time again. But yeah, as the numbers rise, let me do the official welcome. Kalon Venture Partners and Clive Batko in particular has been great friends of the CFO South Africa community for the last couple of years, 3-4 years, I would say. If you don't know Kalon, they invest in building a portfolio of high growth technology companies with innovative business models geared to existing and emerging institutions and their customers. And the cool thing is that through Section 12J, they actually help you invest in all these awesome new entrepreneurial companies. They help them grow fast, and they give consumers like you and me that want to be smart about their saving massive tax breaks and savings. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. But we're really going to focus on entrepreneurship through a crisis like this, as we've seen this year. We've got Thomas Pace from Ozo, instant EFT payments solution that's going through the roof at the moment. We've got Sasha from Sandmark, which can help you avoid fishing disasters, and he'll show you a little bit later how close those disasters are to us. But I really want to kick off with Clive, just for a bit of a background on what entrepreneurship and innovation have meant in the times of crisis, and what he's looking for when he's selecting companies that can withstand crisis or maybe even grow through the crisis, like the examples that we'll hear about later. So I think we should go all of cam, and I'm just going to hand over to Clive for a bit. Please feel free in the chat to ask your questions, interact, introduce yourself as well, and tell us how you're interested, what you're interested in, and engage with us. But for now, I'm going to hand over to you, Clive.
Yeah, thank you, Joel, and thanks to CFO Finance for the opportunity of working together. And yeah, this is part of the Kalon Venture Partners capital raise, and we're working very well with Joel and his team. So really, I was going to introduce myself a bit more detailed, and I hope you can see me okay there. But so I'm the CEO of Kalon Venture Partners, Section 12J, and I'll talk more about Section 12J later, a venture capital company that's 100% focused on innovative entrepreneurs, innovation-led entrepreneurship. My background, just briefly, I was the former CEO of Accenture South Africa, from where I retired at the end of 2012. And during my time, I spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley, in New York, Boston, India, London, building tech businesses. So I've really, even though I was in a corporate, my expertise about building tech businesses. I've probably been involved and touched probably more than 100 tech businesses during my career. After my retirement, I wanted to follow my passion, and I formed Kalon Venture Partners. We raised quite a lot of capital, put a formidable board together with over 200 years business building tech venture capital experience. And we've now got 8 companies within our portfolio, of which 2 of them are Thomas from Ozo and Sasha from Sandmark. And these businesses, very interesting enough, have been counter-COVID. So we've been COVID beneficiaries since the start of COVID. I mean, except for one, which we had a little bit of a wobble, a little bit of turbulence. Particularly, our businesses have really grown, and it's been quite interesting how counter-COVID we have been since the lockdown. So what we're looking at really is we are looking to invest in more of these types of businesses. We've got an exceptional deal flow of great digital tech South African businesses that we're looking to raise more capital, and hence the call today to enable us to invest in these companies. Our share price has gone up significantly. We really have super or even exceeded my expectations as the CEO of the company. So let me just quickly talk about, I'll come back to Section 12J. What have we seen since the lockdown? So we've seen a lot of, every business is becoming a digital business. This is something that was said by Andreessen Horowitz, the top VC company in the US. And we're finding that as well. We're finding the uptake of tech in corporates has been vastly accelerated by the COVID experience. You know, the whole customer experience has just changed. The way people do business has changed. And we have really pivoted many of our businesses to take advantage of every corporate business now looking to new digital technologies to enable and future-proof their businesses. So we really have seen, I mean, most corporates have been under extreme pressure about digitizing their businesses, and it's been a lot of, yes, we'll do that. It's on the radar, it's on the strategic plan. But what this has done, COVID has done, is really been increase the speed to action and help these corporates digitize their businesses. Now we have businesses like, give you an example of that. One is CarScan, which is an automated way of managing your car, your whole life experience of a car, from insurance to buying to selling, etc. So CarScan is very deep tech. It uses artificial intelligence to take a picture of the car when you buy it, and then when you want to insure it, the insurance company knows exactly what the car looked like before you insured it. So when you have an accident, it doesn't have to pay you for the full amount of your premium. It knows the difference between where you are and where the new damage has been caused, and then comes up with automatic quotations on your technology. We've got other businesses like Snap and Save, which is a loyalty business which takes into consideration, it doesn't require integration to the point of sale, and enables all retailers or telcos or insurance companies or the fast-moving consumer goods companies to take advantage of a loyalty scheme without the integration like you would need for the Woolworths and the Pick and Pay. So we have 8 of these very, very disruptive businesses, and apologies about that, Paul, and looking to grow, as I said, more and more. So as I said, to summarize, what we've seen in these businesses is really an urgent need from the corporates to digitize their businesses, from stopping to use cash. If you look at Thomas and Ozo, there's no requirement for using cash, where the majority of South Africans have a bank account, but they don't have any credit cards. So we've really seen substantial growth in our businesses during the pandemic. One of our businesses grew 400% since March. It did 19 million rand in total last year, and it's already done 60 million rand in total in half the year, or 7 months of this year. Thomas will talk about the growth that he's experienced in Ozo. Sasha will talk about the growth they've experienced in Senmark. And this is just a common practice across South African entrepreneurs. So I'm reaching out today to CFOs. I think most of your CFOs, you have to digitize your businesses. And we've got an opportunity not only to use our technology, and hopefully you will use our technology to contact us, but also invest in the future of South African digital tech entrepreneurs. We are very capital constrained in this country. We have great entrepreneurs. We have fantastic innovation, as Joel was mentioning earlier. But where we lack is the capital to marry the innovation and the capital. So that's what Kalon Venture Partners does. That's what we need you to either use our products or invest in our fund, so we can invest in more of these digital companies and take them out globally. We don't invest to just take them out and build a South African business. We invest to grow African and global businesses with each of our companies. And many of our companies now are actually going onto the global route and getting global clients and not just South African clients. We find South Africa is a great fast bed of innovation, but what we do need, though, is more capital. So I'm turning to the audience today. I don't want to sound like a sales pitch, but we do need that more capital, and we've definitely got the innovation that we can marry that capital with. So with that, I'm going to hand back to Joel.
Thanks, Clive. I think a really exciting journey that Kalon has started, and that is helping a lot of entrepreneurs and individual investors achieve their goals. So, I think I always love listening to you, and even more so to the stories that you sort of propel forward. So let's do that now. Thomas, Ozo, give us a bit of a lowdown on what you guys do and the role that Kalon has played, and the role in general that investment has played to get you out in the world.
Yes. So look, I think from our perspective, can you hear me fine? Okay, great. Ozo is all about being an impact-driven business. We realize at a very early stage that one of the biggest challenges that we have in South Africa, and these are buzzwords are often spoken about, which is a challenge around financial and digital inclusion. One of the biggest challenges that we have is 1 in 8 South Africans have a credit card to be able to transact, which obviously comes very handy in times of pandemic when you're stuck in quarantine. But what about the 7 out of 8 South Africans that don't have a credit card but have a bank account? I think, during this pandemic, we've noticed more and more that we are all at the duty in helping one another as South African. That is something that none of us saw forthcoming. And more importantly is that, technology company like ours or Sasha's or many of the ones that Kalon has invested in have this responsibility to come with innovation. It's often in terms of crisis like that we need to be ambitious. And in the roles that Ozo played for us, it was about empowering 49 million South Africans that have credit card or not to be able to transact online or at point of sale in a fashion that will be risk adverse for them and healthy. I think that this big crisis was a big learning, but more importantly, it was a catalyst to accelerate what was inevitable. We're moving toward a digital world, and companies like Ozo are all about basically removing friction and creating solutions for consumers and businesses that are going to be impactful, not to the few thousand or not to the 1 in 8, but more importantly to the masses. So we spend a lot of time as an impact-driven company in the township, rural area. And some of the big challenge that we have is, not so long ago, I was shared a story about a chief in a village in Limpopo that not many of us would be aware of, where they all have to basically collectively as a village put money together and then mandated 2 people to basically go to the local bank, which local means 47 minutes away, 2 taxi fares, which was about $50 each, in order for them to deposit cash, which made absolute no sense when you've got the technology available for them to be able to do that digitally. As much as I'm saying that, one of the biggest challenges that we have in South Africa is people don't have data. So the access to airtime is something that many of us don't realize is a major challenge. Not so long ago, we were looking at some of the survey in the township, and we look at creating testimonial about people using us. So to put it in perspective, it's not about the few million consumers and merchants are using Ozo at the moment that we've built over the past 6 years. But for us, it was about the impact we've created, where we get in excess of 100,000 new consumers joining us every single month. And what was very interesting is when we've done a lot of the solidarity work with the Brian Abana Foundation, where we'll go to the township and we'll come across people running after us wearing, our Ozo mask and says, I've used Ozo, for the first time in my life, I was able to buy online because of you guys, because normally cash on delivery wouldn't work in my area, and that you guys solved friction and problems that I had. So from that perspective at Ozo, what we looked at is how could we automate payments via EFT in a way that it would be easy and convenient for anyone to do so, no matter the age, from 16-year-old all the way up to 90-year-old. And I think, it wasn't so complicated for us to basically try to understand what we had to do. We've got leading banks like Capitec that have done a tremendous job in the past 5 years in paving the way and showing how do you get to build the largest consumer bank in South Africa. And I think, I stand to be corrected, but they got close to 15 million consumers already on their portfolio. And the only thing that they delivered on was to provide simplified banking. So for us, we could echo this sentiment. And what was very important for us is look at the problems there is. Access to data, let's solve it. So Ozo ended up partnering with every single network to provide 0 data cost payment at point of sale or online. The second aspect was app access is another problem. People don't have space on their phone, nor they have the data to download an app on their phone. So we use the latest technology, building a progressive web app, which is an app not installed on your phone, but cloud-based on our AWS server on Amazon, that then basically solves the friction and the problems that many have, with their device. And by doing so and offering zero data cost, we created an entire innovation and solution that now empowers over 49 million South Africans at this present time. And if you look at what we're trying to do now is pretty much offers an opportunity for every single discriminated South African that come from an unprivileged background to be able to have access to financial and digital inclusion. So ultimately, as a result of our focus of first focusing on impacting consumers, solving the problem, we ended up basically growing a business that people could grow an attachment to because of the fact that many of the other companies did not pay attention to them. They were not using cards. There was no interest for them, and cash was a problem that they couldn't solve. So at Ozo, we looked at how can we empower people by decashing the economy, making it cost-effective for them to transact, and I think the results are showing in where we are today. One of the other questions was what has been the impact of Kalon? Well, I think first of all, as much as there's a great board that has got over 200 years of experience, Kalon would never be what Kalon is without the leadership and Clive. So, it's very interesting because Clive, you had a comment which was saying, and I hear you saying that very often. He says, I've been part of over hundreds of companies in the tech from the Silicon Valley scene all the way to Europe and South Africa. And there's one thing that people don't understand that you've become excellent at, Clive, is you become so good at finding those entrepreneurs that are solving solutions and understand how to scale and commercialize them. The reason I'm saying that is because I also try to invest, and I've never been able to get the success and level of a growth that you've had with your portfolio. And as you were saying that's some things I've realized that you definitely have a flair for and definitely is represented in the showcase of all the companies that you have. I think for us, what has been the best values that we've gained at Ozo, to answer your question, Joel, is the fact that we don't know everything. We're certainly not as experienced and knowledgeable as a board that's got 200 years of experience. And, having access to Clive and Fatima and Romeo Kumalo and Giloved and literally being a call away every time we found a challenge within our business or requiring to be able to have the right engagement in major corporate with thousands of people, we just had to call Clive or any of the board of directors. They've always been available to assist us. So this is from our perspective, from Ozo aspect, some of the great learning and guidance that we were able to benefit from Kalon perspective.
Thanks so much, Thomas. I think that illustrates it quite nicely. There's a bit of a technical question in the chat for you, Thomas, that I just wanted to read for you quickly. Has Ozo considered offering payment integrations via APIs for seamless transacting? Miles Donnelly is saying our business really struggles with payment providers in this country with support and technical ability.
So we do offer API integration. We are actually got 5 different integration. Reason being is because Ozo works at point of sale, e-billing, e-commerce checkout, SMS. So, and because we work with various companies from the like of Uber to Vodacom, we need to basically provide that flexibility and customization. So that is definitely something that we have available.
Okay, cool. And maybe Clive, before we move to Sasha, obviously you make these investment decisions on behalf of people that want to invest in something exciting and something that they feel good about. Specifically to Ozo, to Thomas's story, what is it that sets his story apart, where you say yes, this is the one that Kalon is going for?
Well, I think, yeah, thanks, Jill. I think we look at, let me just quickly give you what we look at in making an investment. And Thomas is so right. The great funds from the good funds are the ones that are able to pick the winners. And it's hard. It's really hard to pick the winners. But I think from experience and pattern recognition and that grey matter, you get to a point that you really do understand what you're looking for when you meet an entrepreneur. It doesn't take me that long anymore to say this is a winner or potential winner, even though you do get these things wrong. It's a high-risk category, venture capital. But the returns can be, we look for 38% or 5 times, 6 times return on capital. So someone puts R1 million in, we look at returning 5 to 6 million rand. So you can understand we have to invest in very high growth entrepreneurs. So number one, they have to have a formidable team. That's the first T of that. So Thomas is an incredible T for Thomas, but Thomas is an incredible entrepreneur and a business builder, been there, done it, and got the experience. And Sasha and his team as well. Sasha and Sam, who actually exited his business recently. So they've got exceptional talent as a team. We then look at the technology. It must be something that's different, something that's unique, and it's 10 times better than anything else in the market. And both Thomas and Sasha, who'll talk now, have what we believe are 10 times better than anything else in the market. And they've built a moat around the castle. The third one is traction. The market never lies. If the market is buying your product, the market never lies. Capital raising doesn't justify your product, but dogs eating the dog food, customers taking your products, confirms that you've got the right level of traction. And the fourth T is just the tenacity of the team. You want to invest in people that are just not going to give up. And they never say die. They will continue going until they make this thing successful. And I'll tell you, both Thomas and Sasha and the rest of the teams we've invested are tenacious and obsessed entrepreneurs. They're obsessed with success. They're obsessed with getting this thing right. And that's what I like to do. There's no guarantees, but that obsession helps me invest in them. And the last one is just the terms. We have to make an investment that is good for our investors and obviously good for the entrepreneurs. So we've invested quite a lot of capital in both these companies, and they are blowing the lights up. Not only is Oza blowing the lights up, but look, Sasha, which is a newbie, it's a real startup, only been really around for less than a year. And look at the number of clients and the logos they've got. It's just unbelievable what they've achieved in a very short period of time.
Awesome, Clive. How new are you, Sasha? When did you start off? Am I?
No, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Your question was when did we launch the business?
Yes.
So we launched commercially the 1st of January this year. Well, from January this year, and the software has been built for the last 2-3 years.
Okay, fantastic. I'm just going to start your presentation now. So
yeah, thank you.
You can take it from the top.
Great. Yeah, thanks very much for the opportunity. And so I'm going to use a few pictures. I'm not as eloquent as my peer Thomas Pays over there, so I'll use a few pictures to assist me along the way. But for me, I would echo the similar sentiment. For us at Zenmark, where our purpose is to make the internet a safer place, it has definitely been a much more pleasant experience working with Clive and his team. And I'll explain why that is in a few minutes. But first, I want to just kind of give you an idea of what we actually do and the impact we're actually having. And then I'll talk a little bit about our partnership with Kalon. So to do that, I'm just going to tell you a quick story about a company. This is an aerospace company called FACC in Austria, one of the leading aerospace companies in the world. And their clients are Airbus and Boeing and Bombardier. They make hundreds of millions of euros and employ 3,000-4,000 very, very smart people, many of which are engineers that are there to keep you up in the sky when you're flying. Speaking of which, this gentleman over here is the founder and CEO, Walter Stephan. And he was founder and CEO until May 2015 when he got back from a vacation and found out that his accounting team had transferred 49,500,000 euros out of their account, based on a set of emails that they believed they had received from him, instructing his accounting team to pay out a transaction that he had concluded, an acquisition. Now, obviously, these emails ended up being impersonations of Walter Stephan. So they came exactly from his email address. They looked like they were from him, but they were not from him. And the money was paid into bank accounts, mostly in Hong Kong. Now, the final tranche of 9 million euros was able to be recovered. So they got to it just in time before it was cleared out. And so they only lost 40 million euros in this phishing attack. And the company made a net loss of 20 million euros that year. So Walter Stephan was fired by the board from the company he started. And forevermore, if you Google Walter Stephan and FACC, you will find these very rude pictures of Donald Trump screaming, "You're fired." So that's Walter Stephan's legacy, unfortunately, is the CEO that got fired. So the problem that we're here to solve as Zenmark is this incredible issue of impersonation, email impersonation, and email interception. Okay. Now, right now, all of us in this call, about 75% of us or more, are vulnerable to email impersonation on our corporate email addresses right now. And I'm going to explain why in a few minutes. Okay. And this leads to almost all of the cybercrime in the world today. So most cybercrime begins with an impersonation and then leads to another form of breach. And our purpose at Zenmark is to completely eliminate this attack vector. So when you work with Zenmark, you follow our process and use our software, impersonation and interception of your email is impossible. So that's our purpose. Now, for many of you, when you talk to your CTO or your CIO, they're going to tell you, no, but we're running, Palo Alto firewalls, we're running Mimecast, spam filtering and inboxes. But unfortunately, I'm here to tell you that none of your current cybersecurity systems are protecting you from this very specific type of attack, which is called impersonation or email interception. Okay, and I'm going to prove that to you right here on this in this webinar. So this morning, I scanned a number of your corporate domains of the people on this call, and this is the aggregated score of your domain security. So of us all on this call, there's about 12.9% of us that are protected domains that cannot be impersonated. And the reason for that is also because, in my list included Kalon, included Ozo, who are obviously all protected, and ourselves. But the rest of the members on this call, other than the 12.9%, are vulnerable to an impersonation attack. And if you don't believe me, I'd like you to participate in this demonstration where I'm going to simulate a phishing attack for you and penetrate your security. Now, just as a disclaimer, this is absolutely harmless to you. We do this demonstration all the time just to check domain security. So I'd really appreciate if you participate. You have nothing to fear. I'm going to show you a URL in a minute. In fact, I'm going to see if I can drop it into the chat over here. And I'm also going to give you a QR code which you can scan with your smartphone, both of which are going to take you to this landing page where I'm going to ask you for your corporate email address in the first field. That's the domain we're going to test. And then an alternate address where we're going to deliver a phishing attack. Okay, so your corporate address and then your alternate address like your Hotmail, your Gmail, wherever it is that I'm going to deliver a fake invoice from yourself. Okay, and you'll see this comes with lots of warning signals, so you don't have anything to worry about. I'm just going to find the chat here and drop in this URL. You can now click on that URL, or I'm going to give you a QR code you can use for your smartphone. Just one more note, when you click submit, you're going to instantly get a domain safety score back. If you are scoring a 4 or a 5 out of 5, your domain is safe. You are a responsible internet citizen. Your email cannot be impersonated. The impersonation attack is not going to succeed, okay? If you score a 3 or below, it's highly likely that the impersonation attack will be successfully delivered. So that you'll get instantly, but all of this is completely private and confidential. We're not going to share it with anyone on this call or anywhere else. So it's completely for your own interest. So there we go. There's the QR code. I'm just going to move my picture. So you can scan that QR code with your smartphone or go to the URL, which I dropped in the chat, and you can test your own domain and see if you receive a phishing attack. So I'm just going to leave that on screen for just a second. And while you're doing that, give you an opportunity just to do that. And just tell you that to solve this problem is actually not very difficult, and it's not very expensive. And so this is a must-have for every single domain owner who's got clients or suppliers or staff or any of that. Okay, so this is really not it's not a difficult problem to solve. It's just that we need to go ahead and solve it. So every single domain needs to solve this problem, and it's not difficult. Okay, I've given you a bit of time there. So let me tell you about Kalon and our relationship with Kalon. So Kalon were able to see this opportunity really early on. And we raised capital from Kalon in December 2019. You can see us building the software for the year or two before that, and growing really slowly. And once Kalon put capital into our business and joined us as a partner, we took off. So we have now grown by multiples in the last 10, 11 months. We now have 1,000 active client domains using our product, which is incredibly significant. It makes us the leading business in Africa. We're the leader on the JSE of this technology, and our revenue is tracking behind that. About 5 months it lags to turn a user of the software into a paying client. So, but the same nice exponential curve happening on the revenue report as well. So Kalon has benefited from coming in early into this business and having the vision to do that. And these are some of the brands that are using us for this particular type of cybersecurity. So we're very proud to have some of the top 10 law firms in South Africa, international organizations like YPO, large financial institutions and technology players. That gives us a lot of affirmation. And not only that, but we also have built a distribution network with some of the biggest distributors of technology in South Africa. So these are, again, great affirmation and a great distribution plan that we've got in terms of how we're going to bring on board thousands and thousands of customers. The picture in South Africa is interesting. These are the top 500 companies in South Africa. You can see there that 75% of them have absolutely no protection. It's complete white space. They need our service. But it's not just South Africa. This is a scan of the Frankfurt Stock Exchange in Germany, one of the international markets that we are actively looking at entering. And they're not much better off. In fact, they're a little worse off than the JSE, which is really interesting to us, that in Germany, there's 80% of large German companies that need our service, and we've already started engaging with them. But lastly, I'd just like to share with you that this is a fantastic opportunity for South Africa in terms of job creation and export. We see our big, hairy, audacious goal as being able to export this product all over the world to territories like in the European Union, and actually service it from South Africa using our talent and using staff in South Africa, creating jobs for engineers in a relevant cybersecurity space. So we're really excited about the probability of that. And we've actually got an awesome meeting tomorrow morning with NASPers to discuss how we kick off the job creation side. So yeah, just coming back to, why we're here, and kind of, I think Thomas really summed it up well. For us, I mean, Thomas and myself, I mean, we've had businesses before where we sit on boards and we've got shareholders, and we've had tough boards and tough board meetings and tough shareholders and all those things. And Kalon has been the absolute opposite of that. For us, the value with Kalon is not only were they able to see the vision that we were explaining to them, but they put the capital in, introduced us to their network, and actually trust us to run the business. So we have huge amounts of a great balance, actually. I think, and Clive, to his credit, has this amazing balance to allow us to do what we're here to do, which is build our businesses without being obstructive, but at the same time being supportive, and also, being firm with his views and his opinions, but at the same time not encroaching on our autonomy to go and do what we got to do. So it's, every board meeting we have is really productive, and we 100% consider Kalon as a partner of ours, and not just an investor. So together we are making phishing impossible. And yeah, I think that sums it up for me. And thanks for your time. Joel, you can cut my slides there and we can move on to the next part.
Awesome, Sasha. Yeah, maybe just to comment on the little test that you did with us. I also quickly did it. I think some of the people on the webinar were a bit shy to multitask, which is considered rude by some, but I think us tech people don't mind it. And my score was 2 out of 5, which is obviously which worries me. I see Tinashe says in the chat she scored 0 out of 5. How did you get that one right?
Yeah, so 0 out of 5 is a score, and it's not something to be ashamed of. As I mentioned, 80% of companies in South Africa most probably scoring somewhere around there. So pretty normal. And what it means is that you don't have, there's 3 protocols you need in this protection, and you have none of them. So that's why you're scoring a 0.
Okay, and then for example, I'm scoring 2 out of 5, and it says we don't have a DMARC policy, but it does say unauthorized sending service will be flagged as suspicious. So I'll get some kind of idea that something is afoot. Right.
Yes, you might, but unfortunately, the receiving server has no way of rejecting that mail, so it's highly likely to be delivered to your customer, your supplier. So that's the danger that we want to help you avoid, is that a customer or supplier gets a fake invoice from you, or ransomware for that matter, that you didn't send at all, but was sent from your email address.
But I think to your point, just to add to that, I think the scoring doesn't really matter. It's what you do about it that really matters. So if like us, before we met Sasha, sent Mark, and scored also a 1 out of 5 a while back, we did not act, then that's pretty irresponsible. Especially, I think there's more problems than just the issue around phone being siphoned and other stuff, So great product, and we're proud users also of Sandmark. It delivers on what it's supposed to do. So thanks, Sasha.
Thank you.
Yeah, and maybe just to that point, because we spoke about how Clive has a nose for things that can go really big pretty quickly. Sasha, is there nothing else like this in the world? Have you invented something that doesn't exist, or what is sort of the magic of your fast growth?
Yeah, so no, we're absolutely standing on the shoulders of giants. This is a protocol that was designed for the internet by a consortium of the biggest tech companies in the world. So Google, PayPal, LinkedIn, they all got together and designed a protocol that would stop phishing and impersonation. It's just that it is very difficult to deploy. So we have created the software that helps you navigate the policies, helps you to enable the policies, and helps you to discover how to get through this process, because otherwise it's almost impossible. So we're absolutely standing on the shoulders of giants, and that's what makes this possible, is that every server in the world respects this standard that we are helping you deploy. Not only that, but it's become a global best practice. So you've got Department of Homeland Security has approved it, and the whole US government has to adopt. Same for Australian government, same for EU, GDPR compliant. So it's something you can actually trust as being a global standard. It's not just a couple of guys in Joburg who came up with like a clever idea.
Yeah, cool. I see Gary in the chat is saying he's going to give his mail service provider a mouthful, and mine actually alerted me to the DMARC situation, and I'm probably not using the right terms here, but that we need to get that sorted. So to which extent can a normal mail service provider sort all of this out without your help, and what makes it so great to get you on board?
Yeah, so they can't do it without a piece of software like ours. So there are other providers of this software. We're the only company in Africa that has built our own software, and we like to think we've done it a bit better and a bit more, let's say, custom for our environment and our needs of our customers. But there are other businesses that are out there, and they're raising huge capital and getting valued at crazy numbers. So there's a big job to do in the world. There are millions and millions of domains that need to be protected. So it's going to require hundreds of companies like us. We're just one of the first 15 in the world, let's say, and the first in Africa. So your mail service provider, if you contact them and just tell them to get in touch with us, we will totally partner with them and help them to get the job done. And that's the way we operate. So it's not their fault. They just haven't had a piece of software like this before. So it's been impossible for them to navigate this.
And also maybe to check it to Clive again, when you talk about that gut feel about something that's really going to take off, when you met Sasha for the first time, what was it? Can you pinpoint what that was?
I think, just an absolutely extraordinary A-team. Clearly you heard from Sasha, they're solving a global problem, and they have technology that solves the global problem. But that's not what we invest in technology. We invest in people. And at the end of the day, Sasha, Sam, and Keith, the three co-founders, were just absolutely out of this world. The top entrepreneurs that you can possibly invest in. And one thing I've learned through all my days of building businesses that great teams, even with a mediocre product, not saying Semrock or anything is a mediocre product, but great teams will make your business work. An average team, even with a fantastic, unbelievable product, will not necessarily be able to build a business. So really it was about the team. We invested in the people, we invested in Sasha and Sam and Keith, and they haven't let us down. And their technology is amazing, but they are an unbelievable team who knows how to execute and who knows how to take and solve this problem, not only in South Africa, but starting to go around the globe.
Cool, Clive. Yeah, maybe let's spend a bit of time, Clive, looking at the opportunity to get involved with these businesses through Kalon. Obviously, maybe just a quick reminder for everyone how 12J works, and how it's obviously beneficial for people that invest, but also how it powers you and how it powers Sasha and Thomas indirectly.
No, thanks, Joel. So as I said initially, we one of the constraints, if I look at the theory of constraints, the biggest constraint we've got is the amount of capital that we can invest in these unbelievable businesses, as Thomas and Sasha have just articulated to the audience. So we do need to raise capital. We're starting a capital raise, and we are, as Joel said, a Section 12J company. And Section 12J is really something that was promulgated by SARS in 2009 with a 12-year sunset clause of June 2021, so next year, 2021. And what this basically enabled is a taxpayer can invest up to 2.5 million rand, a retail investor, or a business up to 5 million rand, and get 100% deduction off their taxable income. So let me give you an example of that. If you had 1 million rands worth of taxable income, and you could either pay the 45% marginal rate, you could pay the 450,000 rand to SARS, or you could pay Kalon the 1 million rand, and we will give you a certificate, a tax certificate and a share certificate, and you will claim that, and you will not pay a cent back to SARS. So when you submit your forms on the SARS website, it says that you are invested in a VCC, which is a venture capital company. You say yes, they say how much, you say 1 million, and it will deduct that 450,000 rand of tax that you'd have to otherwise pay. So there's a lot of ways you can save tax. There's unit trust. There's many other forms of asset classes that one can invest in. But if you look around the globe now, and the equity market in South Africa haven't really had any returns. You look at the investing in currency. I mean, the interest rate has gone down. But one thing you invest in us, yes, it's a riskier asset class, but we are looking at a 30 to 38% return on investment capital. That's IRR. So that's, as I said earlier, if you put in 1 million, you get 5 to 6 million back between 5 and 10 years. It's not a liquid investment. So if you need to get dividends and you want to get dividends every year, we are not the right player for you. We don't take dividends from our companies. We'd rather invest those dividends back into growth so they can take their businesses and scale them all over the world. So we're not a dividend-paying venture capital company. There are over 200 VCCs in South Africa. We are just one of them. There's maybe about a handful of tech venture capital companies. But I think the big benefit is you're investing in the fund manager like ourselves, you're investing in our fund, in our board, and then we are investing in the likes of the Sashas and the Thomas. So for anyone out there who wants to take advantage not only of our products, but the tax advantage, you can invest. Go to our website of www.kalonventures.com, and you can download the information. Our prospectus is not yet available for next year, but that should be available within the next few weeks. And our share price has grown quite substantially since inception of our Fund 1 in 2016 and Fund 2 in 2019. So it is a great opportunity. As I said, it's not a liquid investment. So it's not buying equity on the stock exchange. We only invest in private companies where a lot of the information is obviously confidential. So you can't trade us every single day. And the way you make your money is when we exit these companies. So either the whole company sells, or we exit our portion, sell our portion of the company to other investors, other venture capitalists, to trade exit, to other companies. And I've done this many, many times during my lifetime of selling companies to other organizations where you make a big return on your investment. So that's how we return our capital to investments. To reiterate, not a liquid investment, but to make a 30 to 38% return, 5 to 6 times return on your capital, it's going to take us between 5 and 10 years to do that. Section 12J does limit that the minimum investment time is 5 years. So if you try and sell your investment, or you want to liquidate before 5 years, you'll have to pay your tax back to SARS. So once you've had it for 5 years and you do liquidate the investment, and we pay you back if we sell a company, we pay you back your capital, then that and the dividends through a distribution, you would not pay any of that money back to SARS because we've been holding it longer than 5 years. So Section 12J does have, we have to invest in South African entrepreneurs. We can't invest in anything beyond a South African entrepreneur. And there are certain other things that we're encumbered by. We can't do any of the illiquid trades like alcohol or gambling or anything like that. We can't invest in that. Otherwise, we can invest in companies that are their net or their gross asset value is less than 50 million rand. So that forces us to invest in earlier stage companies, even though these companies are already hitting, some of them are hitting the 50 to 100 million rand mark revenue per annum. But that's the type of companies we look for. We invest in early stage companies like Sasha, where they've developed the product, and now they need capital to roll out the product both locally and globally. And we invest in companies like Thomas, who's got that initial capital, and now he's looking for growth capital to scale his technology right around the world. And we've got a portfolio theory. So we invest some in early stage, some in late stage, and some in the middle. But really our approach is a very high-touch approach. So we don't only put in capital, we put in mentorship capital, and you've heard that from both the entrepreneurs, where we really get involved in helping them understand what's maybe that they're trying to go left, maybe say, maybe you should look at right, not to tell them to go right, but maybe look at right because I've been left, and left is a pothole, and right is a path to riches. And then there's the relationship capital. We've got networks all over the world, a lot in South Africa, and globally, and we help introduce, our board helps introduce these entrepreneurs in a business-to-business environment to other businesses. And the last thing we have is we have access to lots of human capital. So one thing about scale, when you do scale a business, you have to firstly scale your human capital, then you scale your strategy, you scale your execution, and you scale your cash. But without scaling people first, you are not going to scale your business. You have to suddenly start hiring the best marketing director, the best sales director, the best HR director, the best product manager, et cetera, and we leverage our networks, and particularly my networks from my Accenture days, to help really bring the best human capital to these businesses. As I say, before they scale financially, they have to scale their human capital. So that's about Section 12J. There is talk in the market that Section 12J might or might not get extended by National Treasury beyond June 2021. So this could be the last chance for investors like yourselves to invest in Section 12J, which will be February next year. But not to be put off, it's not, even if it doesn't get extended by National Treasury and you make your investment, it makes no difference to us. We're still around for the next 5 to 10 years to turn your capital. If you put, as I said, you put $1 million, to turn it to 5 to 6 times your invested capital over the next 5 to 10 years. We don't know yet if the National Treasury will extend it, but we're waiting to see whether they will extend it for an extended period beyond June 2021. But as I said, not a lot of people are concerned that this will have an impact on Section 12J. It won't have an impact at all on current investors or investors that take the opportunity in February. Only beyond that, there will be no more tax saving from an investment into Section 12J. So please take advantage of the February tax window. I think you can see the type of companies we invest in. We're pretty confident we'll hit our 38% internal rate of returns back to our investors. But obviously anything can happen. We look at companies that we could make 100 times return on investment. It really does depend. What I learned in Silicon Valley, they use a baseball analogy. You'll have some strikeouts that you maybe won't make money. You'll have some you'll get to first, second, or third base. You'll make 1 or 2 or 3 times your capital, and you'll get hopefully a few home runs that you'll get 10 to 100x times return on your capital. And we're looking at hopefully not having strikeouts, but been able to return a large amount of capital back to our investors. So that's the summary of Section 12J. You can get hold of me personally on Clive, CLIVB for Bravo, at KalonVP, KALONVP.com, and I'll send you all the information you require to make an investment into these high-growth entrepreneurial companies. But Joel, thanks again, and thanks again for the audience of taking your time out and spending time with us, hearing about a great investment opportunity focused on South African companies where we can create jobs, we can increase the fiscus, and obviously we can solve many problems in the corporate world.
Awesome, Clive. I think that was very informative. Just to know how you can back these amazing initiatives that are South African born. I've also popped a link in the chat that people can click if they want to fill in their details. If they're interested in investing, it'll go straight to Clive and he'll contact you. So that's awesome. Just out of interest, because we've got another 8 minutes on the clock, Clive, and I also maybe want to just hear for the other gents about this. How big is the investment that you put in these companies? I imagine both in percentage-wise and maybe in terms of volume. Are we talking about $1 million here, $1 million there? Are we talking about much bigger portions? So what is that like?
Yeah, our average check size is about $1 million. So 15 million rand, maybe went up to 19, but I think it's back to about 15.5 million rand. So that's our average check size. And what we do is what we call in the venture capital industry, we have dry powder. So we save a certain amount of capital. We don't invest it. We wait for these companies to raise their next round of capital so we can really back our winners. So that dry powder is used to back our winners so we can put more capital into the companies that are already flying. The only limitation we have is through Section 12J is we can't put more than 20% of our capital for each of our funds. So we've got 2 funds, but we're limited to 20% of that capital we can invest in one invested company. So we had 100 million rand. The maximum we can invest in one company is 20 million rand. And then our second fund, we can invest 20% of that fund as well. So yeah, 15 million rand is our average check size. We do 5 million. We do 20, we've done 20 even more as well. But typically, if you're looking for us, if we're looking at growth capital, about $1 million, we're looking for earlier stage capital between 5 and 10 million rand. But obviously, the amount we invest is unfortunately confidential.
Sure.
We can't release certain information.
And they are always minority shares, I presume.
We only take a minority share. We're allowed to take up to 69%, but we're not operators. So we want a minority share, as Sasha was saying, and we're really there to guide and help and support from a board point of view and open up relationships. But we're not operators. We back operators. We invest in operators. We invest in people that can get the job done and do this better than we can. But what we can do is, as I explained, there's 4 types of capital that we bring to every single entrepreneur. But definitely, we're not operators. We want to have a minority stake in these companies.
Awesome. Thomas, anything to add from your side?
I think that's a great summary. Maybe one experience I can share is when we received the initial capital investment from Kalon, we were able to deliver on extraordinary growth. And what was really key and important for us once we delivered that growth was to be able to sustain it. So the really important aspect of an investor is often not one of a single investment, but being there to support and continue the investment as the growth is required. And I think that's definitely something that, from Kalon perspective, we've been able to experience, and that ultimately reflects in the extraordinary growth that Ozo has been able to achieve today.
Sasha?
Yeah, from our side, I think what's really interesting is this, that we know that Kalon at some stage has to exit to kind of complete their cycle of what they really set out to do. And yet we completely accept that, and we look forward to delivering them to, the 10x kind of level and above because of the way that they've dealt with us. So it's not the technical stuff. It's actually the soft skills and the support and the encouragement that makes us feel really proud. Because now when we look at the investment they made today, it's cheap, because Thomas's business is already past 10x. We're trying to get on our way to maybe 3x after the first year. So Kalon's going to do nicely out of it, but it couldn't have happened to a nicer group of guys. So we're very happy to be a part of their success story too.
Awesome, guys. Thank you very much for what I think was a very informative and inspirational webinar over the last hour. As I said, for people that have missed out, the replay will be available. So tell your friends and family. Quickly put up a couple of slides. This is where we were today. We're still hosting CFO webinars under the Finance and Urban Network banner until into December. So this is one that's coming up soon. See if I can move us out of the way. There we go. Out of the way. Make us small. So smart finance for imports and exports. It's going to be on Thursday, I think. Yeah, I'm hosting that one as well. So it's going to be very sort of dedicated topic webinar. So if you are battling with your export or import, then this is the one to follow. And lastly, mastering virtual finance, how Aon aced financial close and audits with Workday. As you may know, Workday is also one of our great partners, like Kalon. Also really looking forward to this one. So having said that, thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for interacting in the chat, and thanks for doing Sasha's tests. Your security has not been compromised. He has promised me, and I'm going to test my own quickly now. And thanks to the gents for the informative session.
Thank you very much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.